find it fascinating to glimpse into the daily rituals of highly creative or successful people. For instance, did you know that Beethoven drank coffee for breakfast every morning, made up of precisely 60 beans per cup, which he counted out one by one for the perfect dose? And we probably all heard about Mark Wahlberg's 2:30 a.m. daily wake-up, followed by prayer time, followed by breakfast, morning workout, post-workout meal, all before most of us would even consider it to be morning. There's a number of best-selling books on the habits and routines of highly effective people. And I think we like knowing this stuff because not only do we get a cheeky glimpse into the habits of people we admire, there's also the possibility that if we try emulating them ourselves, we might become as effective and successful too. As songwriters, there are a number of habits we do daily to hone our craft. And the good news is, most are super easy and very achievable for aspiring songwriters and seasoned pros alike. Here's 12 things good songwriters do every day. It sounds obvious, but you'd be surprised by the amount of aspiring songwriters that don't actually listen to much music. If you want to generate quality output, you need quality input, and the more eclectic the better. Even if you only write one genre of music, put the radio on. Open Spotify playlists in a genre you wouldn't normally listen to. Listen to the soundtrack behind movie scenes and TV shows. Tom Waits famously turns on a few radios at once and listens for the interesting overlaps or happy accidents. The different musical soundscapes are going to plant little melodical nuggets into your inspiration tank, along with a few lessons from what other songwriters have done. If listening to music feeds inspiration for your melodical sphere, then reading is what's going to expand your lyrical sphere. You see, we get stuck in a rut using the same lyrics and phrases again and again. According to Countdown's dictionary expert Susie Dent, the average active vocabulary of an adult English speaker is around 20,000 words, while his passive vocabulary is around 40,000 words. This means we only use half the amount of words we know. In fact, it's believed on any given day we actually just reuse the same 7,000 words, as they're just the ones we need to get by. Coffee please? I'm super busy. What's for dinner? What are you watching on Netflix? Don't worry what the book is, fiction or non-fiction, just always have a book on the go. It will broaden your lyrical horizons. Write every day. Even when you're not feeling inspired, just write something. Even if you have zero musical inspiration and you're nowhere near an instrument, just write a journal or some thoughts for the day. Good songwriters know that this is a numbers game and that quality will come if you commit to quantity. There's an example James Clear shares in his book Atomic Habits, where a photography teacher splits his class into two groups. Everyone on the left side of the classroom would be the quantity group. They would be graded by the amount of work they produced. Everyone on the right side of the room would be the quality group. They would be graded only on the quality of their work. They would only need to produce one photo, but to get an A, it had to be perfect. At the end of term, all the best photos were produced from the quantity group, who had been busy taking photos, experimenting with composition and lighting, and learning from their mistakes. Meanwhile, the quality group had sat around discussing perfection, but in the end had very little to show other than one mediocre photo. This is a great one because it gives you permission to be bored. Boredom is pretty much something we've eradicated in the 21st century. There's always something to do. Now be honest here, what do you do if you're sat in a coffee shop and the person you're with pops to the loo? You pick up your phone. You do. Stop it. You do. Well, I challenge you not to look at your phone or a book. I know I just told you to read more, but don't distract yourself the next time you've got a few minutes to kill. In fact, maybe just leave your phone at home the next time you go for coffee. Look around, look at people, look for inspiration. People used to always be bored in the olden days because we didn't have Netflix or Alexas or anything. But look at the art we used to produce. Give yourself permission to be bored and just observe. Inspiration won't come if you can't see it or hear it. Okay, I know I just told you to leave your phone at home, but for most of the time when we do have stuff with us, get into the habit of capturing inspiration as it comes. Richard Branson famously won't leave his house without a trusty notepad, claiming it to be his secret life hack, writing down ideas as soon as they come to him. I find there's something about physically writing things down in a proper notepad that just feels intuitive and more creative than digital notes. But whatever works, I use the voice memo app on my phone all the time for capturing melody ideas or just thoughts if I'm out without a notepad. When inspiration comes, don't miss it. Now, I don't mean this like going to those corporate networking events where everyone's in suits, drinking lukewarm coffee served out of those silver urns, and they hand out those little pastries with bits of custard in, which are actually quite nice, and everyone's swapping business cards in that hope of making a sale. I mean just having like-minded friends, a network of creative people to collaborate with or just hang out with. These are people you can call upon to help out with work, other musicians, photographers, videographers, but could just be good friends to share ideas with over a beer. You see, creative people often fall into the more introverted part of the introvert-extrovert spectrum, meaning we like to create in isolation, never sharing a work in progress. But not only is sharing caring, it can lead to better ideas and almost always boost motivation. Me and my buddy Alex, who's also a songwriter, producer and fellow creative, we meet up for coffee every couple of weeks and just swap notes. What you've been up to, what you're working on, what you're creating. It always makes me feel more energised to go home and create. Good songwriters are able to put themselves into other people's shoes. Of course, a good place to start is from the heart, from personal experience, but personal experience is often somewhat limited. Think of a screenwriter. They don't write every movie script based on things that have actually happened to them. The fun part is the making stuff up. Writing scripts about love, disaster, coming of age, aliens. There's a whole world of themes and plot lines out there to be explored. Good songwriters try to see a story through the eyes of another main character. Perhaps you're tasked with writing a sad heartbreak song, but are lucky enough to have never been through a rough breakup. Well, this is your chance to try and articulate the emotions that another person might go through. As we've already said, be observational. The next step is to be empathetic. If you write songs, the chances are you also play an instrument. You may already be very good at that instrument, but it always pays to keep improving. Malcolm Gladwell famously said in his book Outliers that it takes 10,000 hours of practice before one becomes an expert. Whether or not this is true, practice equals improvement, and improvement equals a larger toolkit at your songwriting disposal. Now, if you're an average guitarist, that doesn't mean you can't write an amazing song. Most of the biggest songs of the last 50, 60 years have been written with just 4 chords. But you'll quickly run out of ideas if you keep using the same chord progressions, with the same time signature, with the same rhythm. Understanding more about music theory and being able to find your way around a guitar or piano simply unlocks the lid of a larger box of tricks. Whether you do music as a full-time thing, or it's a hobby or a side gig, songwriting or any creative pursuit is a form of output. You're generating ideas and building those ideas into finished art. And any form of output can be draining and lead to burnout. Good songwriters have other interests that aren't forms of output, rather forms of input, things that replenish the creative soul. These could be other art forms like photography or painting, but are done purely for pleasure and not a creative pursuit. Or could be something totally unrelated to creativity, like mountain biking or scuba diving. The point is to have other interests that fill up the experience tank, that make you feel good, that might even lead to inspiration. I know, we don't all have a posh shed at the bottom of our garden to practice our craft into the early hours. Some of us have got kids, Matt. I know, I've got kids too, and we didn't always have the cabin. It was a lockdown 2022. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is, if you can, and I know it's not always practical, but if you're able to, have a dedicated writing space, an environment you feel you can create in. This could be just one chair in the living room that has your guitar on its stand next to it, and a notepad and pen on the coffee table. This is about removing barriers that could stop you from writing. I made the mistake for a couple of years of keeping my guitar in its case under the stairs, thinking I'll just grab it when I want to write something. I barely touched my guitar for 2 years. Just the simple act of going into the cupboard under the stairs, pulling out the case, opening the case, tuning the guitar, probably 30 seconds of work, led me to just not bothering. Having a dedicated space ready to play helps eliminate any obstacles that might otherwise divert your attention to Netflix. And you can take this to the next level quite easily too. If the first level is about removing obstacles and making it easier to play and practice, the next level is about making it more enjoyable. This can be as simple as nice lighting, good quality notepad and pen, a wee dram of whiskey. I'm a firm believer that the environment plays a big part in our creative process. Good songwriters finish their work. If we followed the tips and we've got notepads and voice memos full of creative ideas, then we need to close some of these off into finished articles. Creative people are notorious for having multiple projects on the go, but never actually finishing any of them. Maybe it's a nurturing thing where we've brought life into the world through our creative projects, just can't bring ourselves to stop nurturing and growing our babies in fear of them going off to uni and never coming home again. Whatever finishing means to you, whether it's recording a radio-ready master or just sitting down and pressing record on your iPhone and playing from start to finish. Close off your projects and move on to the next one. It's the only way that double-sided prog rock album is ever going to get finished. And lastly, good songwriters show their work. There's a common saying, if a song is written in the forest but nobody is around to hear it, does it even make a sound? I'm not sure that's a saying, it might be something different. Anyway, the point is, if you write songs and never finish or share them, are you really a songwriter? Yeah, but no one will know, and art should be shared. If you're worried about what people might think or that friends will say your work sucks, in my experience, no one really cares. And the few people that do show up tend to be really nice and encouraging. In the book Show Your Work by Austin Kleon, Austin writes, "Show your work, and when the right people show up, pay close attention to them because they'll have a lot to show you." By sharing what you've created, you've put yourself out there and given yourself a stamp of authority that you are indeed a songwriter. Then that feedback from others is only going to show you how to be even better the next time you hit upload. So there you go, 12 habits to cultivate into your daily routine. Let me know in the comments below if there are any I've missed or if you have a daily ritual that helps you to create. If you'd like to learn more on songwriting, I'll link a video in the description on song structure. And if you got something out of this video, please gently tap that like button, subscribe if you will, and I will see you in the next video. Ay, ay, ay.